Hi, I'm Spiders, and yesterday's update added the ability to automatically M1 by holding down the left mouse button, simply by enabling the hold M1 setting. Now, there are a variety of honestly very powerful benefits, yet also some pretty noteworthy downsides to this. So, should you use hold M1? Well, let's get into it. First thing I'd like to say is that while this does just sound like a quality of life change to most people, just being able to hold down your mouse button instead of having to spam click, this is not actually the case. There are some really big impacts, especially in PvP, from this change. Now, the core idea that makes this super strong is that it allows you to get frame 1 M1s. Now, this is useful in a lot of different situations, but let me explain what I mean by this. One common example of where these frame 1 M1s are very strong is in parry trades. Normally, the way that people use their weapons in parry trades is by first pressing F and then waiting to actually parry the attack, and then after they see that, they M1. Pretty standard stuff, right? But with hold to M1, or also macros, which are very similar, you can first press F and then begin holding down your left mouse button so that as soon as you parry the attack, it instantly does an M1, which is super fast and extremely hard to react to, as you can see on screen. The difference in speed is honestly just super staggering. Like, right now I'm using a 0.72 swing speed, and just by combining hold to M1 with parrying an attack, it is super hard for people to react to, and normally okay, I'm finding as top players in this clip too. I'm somewhere around top 50 while I'm recording this, and being able to land M1s like this with a 0.72 swing speed weapon is really uncommon. But by using hold down M1, you can get it really consistently, and it's super good and super easy to land M1s. So really, this ability to stack M1s with parries, or even after like mantras or crits, is what makes hold M1 or macros, which basically do the same thing, super strong. Because you can get these instant frame 1 M1s you can't normally do as a human, just spam clicking. So that is what I believe makes hold M1 super strong, being able to get these frame 1 M1s, which can be used during parry trades, after parrying, or when you're in hit stun or something, just to get M1s instantly as soon as possible. Now that being said, I will say the faster your weapon is, the better this will be. So here I'm using a 0.72 swing speed spear, which is relatively slow on the slower end of medium weapons. But if you put it on a faster weapon like a dagger, it makes something really hard to react to even harder to react to, which is really broken honestly, as you can see here in this clip. Fighting normal players with this on is almost unfair, because really you cannot fight this without a lot of practice and a lot of skill. And even top players really struggle with this too, so honestly, this is something really powerful. Now from how much I was hyping it up there, you might think that this is something that you really have to run in every build and something really good every time, but there are actually some downsides to this as well. For example, using a hold to M1 messes up mantra feinting a lot, and as someone who main scale, this is something very noticeable for sure. In order to mantra feint, you have to cast a mantra, then left click or right click and then left click, whatever order works for you. But hold to M1 actually messes this up a lot of the time, and you'll see a lot in this background footage that I accidentally M1 after doing a mantra feint. This is a really common issue with hold to M1, and if you accidentally hold left click for just a fraction of a second too long, which is really something that's not hard to do, then you will accidentally M1 a lot of the time, so that is kind of an annoying issue. I will say I have been playing with hold M1 on for a little bit, and you can kind of learn how to not do this and get rid of this bad habit of holding left click for too long, but that is something worth noting for sure. It is really annoying, especially at the start. Now there are some possible solutions to this though. For one, you can actually just use a normal macro, just basically an auto clicker that M1's for you, and just bind it to a different button besides your M1, so that you can kind of control when you want to actually use the macro and when you don't want to use the macro, which is not something you can do with hold to M1. Because with hold to M1, you can't bind it to another button like your mouse side buttons or a key on your keyboard or something, but you have to use your left mouse button to use hold to M1. So that is one downside it has to normal macros. So yeah, kind of disappointing to be honest. And another downside to hold to M1 is that compared to a normal macro, it does have some weird bugs that definitely make it worse. Now just one common example of this is that you can't use hold to M1 after using a crit. If I use a crit and then use hold to M1 during the crit, it just doesn't M1. You can see right here I'm holding M1 and nothing is happening. In order to actually start M1ing, I have to just re-click my mouse, which is kind of annoying. And macros do not have this problem. So yeah, unfortunately just another weakness to macroing, which is kind of annoying because it would have been really nice if this was a solution that just made it so that nobody had to macro ever again, and macro users didn't get an unfair advantage, but unfortunately that is not the case yet. Now that you know these core upsides and downsides to hold to M1, you can finally answer the question, should you use hold to M1? Well, I will say the number one factor you should consider is preference, because I will say while the upsides are pretty nice to this, being able to get frame 1 M1s which are really strong, it can be really weird to use for the first time, and I can say that from my experience as well, because using hold to M1 definitely took some time to get used to, so if you're not willing to do that, then it might not be for you. But the upsides of getting extremely hard to react to swing speeds are really good. So for most people, if you're willing to learn it, I do recommend using hold to M1. If not macroing, I guess, because honestly macroing is probably still better, which I'm really disappointed by, since it's really a shame that people are able to get an unfair advantage from macroing, but it is what it is, so take that as you will. Also, one more thing I'd like to mention is that some people do have performance issues with using an actual macro, so if that's an issue for you, then maybe this is a choice that you should make. Just want to put that out there, that is another thing to be noted. Now, me personally, I have nothing against macro users, because honestly, the fact that they haven't really been fixed at all yet by the devs just kind of makes it a part of the game that you have to deal with at this point. But as someone who does not macro, and I do not plan on macroing, I will be trying out this hold M1 setting, since I do think the frame 1 M1s are really, really good, and I think once you're able to get used to it, this is something really nice. So yeah. Alright, now that is everything I believe that you need to know in order to determine whether or not you should use hold M1. I'm honestly really disappointed that it's not just a replacement for macroing, since macroing is still better in some ways, but I think they did a pretty good job this time, especially compared to M1 buffering, which was definitely not a replacement for macro users, or keybinds, which are also good, but still you can't use your mouse side buttons, so it's also not better than just using your own keybinds. But yeah, I'm sure that it's not super easy to program this kind of stuff, because the Deepwoken devs definitely know what they're doing, so yeah, I can't be too hard on them for that. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.